Okay, can everyone see my screen okay? Welcome, welcome. We are so excited to be presenting. This is actually Give Back's first year to present at the National Mentoring Summit. So we're really looking forward to it. We have attended for many years in the past, and we're excited to kind of share our best practices and assist any of you in continuing to grow and expand your own mentoring programs in your own cities and states. So we will start off with a kind of a call to action. So we want to get you engaged. So if you would please, in the chat room, go ahead and introduce yourselves, where you're from, and then also any potential learning outcomes that you hope to glean from this presentation. We want to make sure that we're answering your questions and getting down to what you are really interested in throughout the presentation. This is a panel style, so we will be a variety of us speaking and answering questions, and we will have a specific person who will introduce in just a moment monitoring chat. So we hope that we'll be able to answer any questions that you have as we move forward. We will have time at the end as well if you would like to unmute and ask us in real time. So I will start out with introductions. Again, we're with Give Back, Give Something Back. We're talking about how we were able to expand from one county in Lockport, Illinois, to 7 states, and how we've been able to adapt our regional mentoring model on more of a national scale. So, and we are continuing to expand, so we'll kind of give you a hint of what's to come at the end. So I will start with introductions. My name is Lydia Matlock. I'm the National Director of Enrollment for Give Something Back, as well as the Program Director for the state of Kansas. I have worked for Give Something Back for 3 years. I have a master's in psychology, and my background has been in higher ed. So I worked in higher ed admissions, recruitment, enrollment management, marketing for the last 10 years. So I will move on to my co-presenter, Katie Latta, also with me in Kansas.
Hey, good afternoon. My name is Katie. I'm also in Kansas with Give Back. I'm the Assistant Program Director. I'm responsible here for our Student Services and Mentoring program. I've been with Give Back for about 2.5 years. I have my master's degree in human resources, and my background is also higher education, recruitment, admissions, and academic advising. Kelsey, you want to go next?
Sure. My name is Kelsey Novak. I am the manager of Mentor and Student Services here in our Illinois office. I actually just started with Give Back in April of 2020, so fairly new to the organization, but very excited to be here. I have a master's in higher education, and I also, just like Katie and Lydia, do have a background in higher education as well. Prior to starting with Give Back, I was working at a university in a financial aid office for 8 years. So I'm excited to be here and cannot wait to present.
On to Chris in California.
Hi, everybody. I'm super excited to be here. This is my first time attending the conference. I tried a couple years in the past to attend, and Mother Nature had different ideas. And so I was so excited about this year, and I was throwing, pennies into the wishing well, like, come on, weather, come on, weather. Never imagining like a global pandemic would keep us apart. But I'm excited about the opportunity maybe next year to be in person and to meet with all of you. My name is Chris Brown. I am the program director here in California. My background is social work. I started as a social worker with the county of Riverside here in Southern California in, I think, 2001. So I've spent my career working with at-risk youth. I did different things when I was there. I was a forensic interviewer. I was a supervisor. I worked with placement, so the placement of children, and foster homes, and getting foster homes ready to take placements of children. So a lot of work with foster youth and kind of what that looks like behind the scenes for them. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I started here in 2017, and I love it. I'm having a blast. I love these kids. I love everybody that we work with. Everybody just is in it, and it's exciting. These are exciting times for all of us.
Great. Thank you, Chris. On to Lena.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lena Moe, and I work for Give Back in New York. My background is also in higher ed. I was a teacher, so I'm really passionate about higher ed outcomes. I like to work directly with students, but I'm also really invested in making sure students find academic pathways that are a good fit for them. So over to Julie.
Thank you, Lena. So I'm Julie Branshaw. I've been with the organization for about 3 years. I also have a higher education background, 15 years at 2 small universities here locally. My master's degree is in counseling as well. And, but I love what we do. I love being part of this organization, and hopefully we can help you grow your organization as well.
Thanks. And we will end on a high note with Chabe on the chat.
Hi, everyone. My name is Chabe Acosta. I am program manager for Give Back here in New York. I support Lena in running things down here in New York. It's a pleasure to be here at Mentor for the 2nd year now. My background is in higher education and in program management. And as Lydia mentioned, I'm going to be monitoring the chat with any questions or any comments that you have. So stay tuned.
Thank you so much. So again, our program today is simply just to kind of share best practices, kind of the ideas that we've had, how we've been able to overcome some of these pandemic obstacles to continue to grow our program throughout the past year. And we'll do that in a panel style. So again, please feel free. Sorry guys, my lights. We're very green here. Please feel free to enter any questions that you have in the chat throughout, and Chabe will try to answer those as we go. If they're better left to the end, or we could answer them as a panel, we will revisit those questions right at the time for the end. So first thing we're going to do is share a video for you. I think what's important is, who are we? Who do we serve? What do we do? And so this short video will kind of explain those students that we work with. We are obviously a mentoring program, but we're also a college scholarshiping organization. And so we do a little bit of both. I would say the scholarship is probably the smallest part of what we do. I think we all know at this conference that mentoring is at the heart of everything. And so we'll share a video about how we got started, and then we'll open with the panel discussion.
When I was a senior in high school, for some reason, unbeknownst to me to this day, I was selected to get a scholarship for $250. And it always meant a lot to me. I got a plaque with it, and it's something that I always remembered. And I decided many years ago, I think when I was in college, I said, I'm gonna give back to this organization, the Lockport Women's Club, that gave me this scholarship. And that's how it sort of all got started. The $250 to me was somebody believed in me and wanted me to go to college. And it meant the world to me.
I was honored to be the first recipient of the Give Something Back Foundation scholarship that Mr. Carr had donated to the Lockport Women's Club. And on the 100th anniversary of their founding, he wanted to do just that, give something back.
The Give Something Back Foundation provides resources for students who are financially vulnerable, as well as mentoring to bring them from high school into college, prepared for college, and then to remove that tremendous burden that many students face about how they're going to pay for college.
We want to change the world for as many people as possible. And we want to help the people who need the help the most. And the way to do that is to put people through college and break the cycle of poverty. I broke the cycle of poverty for my family. I didn't want my kids to grow up the way I grew up.
When you're given this gift of a college scholarship, and you know someone really believes in you, it really fueled me to succeed, graduate college in 4 years and with a high grade point average, so that I could move on and break that cycle in my family of no one ever graduating college.
Our program isn't just to give scholarships. Our program is to put kids who would not otherwise go to college, to get them through college, having a good college campus life, and graduating in 4 years.
Look at the alternative. The alternative is that they simply would not have an education. And that basically put them at a massive disadvantage relative to their colleagues, to their students, to their fellow students, because in today's world, a baccalaureate degree really has replaced a high school diploma of 20, 30 years ago.
A person who has a bachelor's degree will earn $1 million more in their lifetime than if they don't have a college degree. That's huge.
It's choosing students that come from backgrounds where they've faced life's adversities. They've turned these attributes of overcoming adversity into virtues of self-confidence, courage, so that they can achieve their dreams and have a successful career.
After I got the Give Something Back scholarship, 5 family members graduated college, and now it is the norm in my family.
The biggest success of this program has been having such a high percentage of the people that start the program finish it, and not be in that group of 36 million Americans that don't have their degree, who wanted to go to college and couldn't get through. I tell the students, the only expectation I have of you is when you're able to, your job is to give back in some way.
Wonderful. So I hope you have kind of a little bit of a better idea of who we are and what we do. But I'll tell you, when you see a video, when you're in this work and you do it every single day, it's something that you just get really used to. But when you see it on video, it always gives me chills to think how much we're really impacting and affecting students and their families. And so we're going to give you another just kind of brief explanation from a variety of our panel members on how we got started there in Lockport, Illinois with our founder, Bob Carr, and where we are today. So I'm going to start out with Kelsey in Lockport, Illinois. Can you answer that question for us?
Sure. Thank you, Lydia. So as you can see from the video that Lydia just played, Bob was extremely grateful for the scholarship opportunity that he received. That $250 not only changed his life, but has now successfully changed the lives of approximately 1,500 students and countless mentors from all over the country. The Give Back Scholarship at inception was only for students who attended Lockport High School, which was actually Bob's alma mater. On average, there was roughly a dozen students that were able to benefit from the scholarship in its early stages. In 2012, this is when we created the College Partner Program model, which is our current model. The model was successful and has been successful because it allowed us to provide upfront contributions to the universities to be able to prepay for a number of seats. With being able to do this, Give Back has provided 50 scholarships to different kids each year. We are able to send more students to college, but it's also allowed from us to expand from one high school in one county to multiple high schools in multiple counties in Illinois. Currently here in Illinois, we have 6 colleges and universities that we work with. It's Blackburn College, Illinois State University, Lewis University, Northern Illinois University, University of Illinois at Champaign-Urbana, and the University of St. Francis. The agreement is that tuition, room and board will be covered for the scholar and for them to have access to a high quality education without the burden of the student loan debt. The colleges and universities all range from small private institutions to large scale universities that offer different degrees and on-campus clubs. After the success that we had here in Illinois, Give Back then expanded into the Mid-Atlantic region, which is actually where I'm going to pass it off to Lena, and she is going to speak more on the expansion there.
Thanks, Kelsey. So the first step in our expansion pathway in the Mid-Atlantic was to secure college partners. So I was brought on board to start the New York program, so I'll describe that, but it followed a similar pathway in New Jersey and Delaware. First, we began by researching higher education institutions that had good outcomes for low-income students. These were schools that had a smaller outcomes gap between students who were on financial aid or part of an equal opportunity program and those who paid full tuition. And those stats are often publicly available. So we looked at statistics like graduation rates and whether schools had additional support networks like tutoring or group mentoring on campus. And then at that point, after selecting the schools we felt would make good partners, we approached the leadership and board at each of these institutions and pitched our program. As Kelsey mentioned, our model is based on prepaying for seats. So we offered a large upfront capital contribution of $1 million in exchange for 50 seats, paying for tuition, room and board for 4 years for Pell eligible students. While this is a large donation, it doesn't actually pay for all of the costs. So we really need universities to match our contribution. And the reason they're willing to do that is because we select students early on in high school and we mentor them throughout high school, also establishing strong ties to the university partners so that when our scholars who are low income, high risk students arrive as freshmen, they're ready to succeed in college. So in New York, we formed 3 partnerships with 3 very different kinds of universities. Binghamton University is a large research university, Queens College, a CUNY school in New York City, and Mercy College, a liberal arts school in Westchester. These schools have different strengths and offer different experiences for our students, so we felt like they covered a range of academic opportunities. After establishing the university partners, we set out to form high school and community-based organization partnerships. There are over 1 million high school students in New York City alone, so we needed a way to select students, while also searching for partnerships that would provide an extra layer of support for our students. So we often partnered with CBOs and high schools that already had mentoring programs that we could partner with them and rely on them. So with these 2 levels of partnerships in place, on the one hand, college partnerships, and on the other, high school partnerships, we started to recruit students in the 9th grade. We then mentor the students throughout high school and provide opportunities for them to visit partner campuses and establish strong ties with these universities and with their peers. We're going to talk more about mentoring later, so I'll leave it there and turn it over to Chris.
Thank you, Ms. Lena. I feel like Kelsey and Lena did the heavy lifting on sort of explaining the process and how we bring colleges on board. Our colleges here in California are University of Laverne, Chapman University, and Cal State San Bernardino. And the same sort of process happened that Lena talked about, searching out the colleges, seeing, are they bought in? Do they have the services that we need to help support and guide these kids through this transition into higher education. But I really like to tell the story about how California started. So if you guys will indulge me, rumor has it, or legend has it, I guess I should say, Bob was sitting in an airport in Australia, and he struck up a conversation with a woman who happened to be a district attorney here in San Bernardino County in Southern California. And she prosecuted crimes against children. And so the 2 of them struck up a conversation and started to talk. And she said, you should come to San Bernardino. You should come to Southern California, San Bernardino. This is the place you're gonna wanna start your next give back. And so he did come, and he met with our executive director, Dr. Amy Young. She's a forensic pediatrician. She is the director of the Children's Assessment Center here in San Bernardino. The center is a place where if there's allegations of abuse or neglect, children will go there to determine if those allegations are substantiated or not. And so Bob came here, he toured the facility, he spoke with our executive director about why this would be such a great place and the need that we had here. And he said, absolutely, let's do this. And so in 2017, the California Give Back chapter started. And we've been working with foster youth, homeless youth, and children of incarcerated parents since day one, and looking forward to bringing more students into our program. So it's very serendipitous, I think, our story here in California.
Well, let's end here in my home state, Kansas, with Katie.
Thank you. I think in this industry, the nonprofit and mentoring space, everything is about relationships, right? So that's kind of how we came to Kansas. So Bob Carr, our founder, was interviewing Peter Maluk. He's a pretty well-known financial planner. He owns a company called Creative Planning here in Overland Park, Kansas. And he was interviewing him to be his personal financial planner. Well, over lunch, Bob is a passionate guy and loves to share about Give Back. So over lunch, he started talking about Give Back and what he does. And Peter was just so excited about it and asked if there would be an opportunity to bring Give Back to the state of Kansas. So thanks to the generous donation of Peter and Veronica Maluk, we were able to bring Give Back to the state of Kansas and start recruiting students in 2017. We also partner with 4 universities here. We work with Baker University, Pittsburgh State University, Wichita State University, and Kansas State University, and use the same prepaid model as you've heard about in the other states. So we're very excited that that relationship brought us to Kansas, and then it really has continued to evolve. And Peter and Veronica's company, Creative Planning, has become a corporate mentoring partner for us, and you'll hear more about that later.
Great, thank you. I think something important just to share right off the bat before we move into who we serve is that, you know, we're a small office, and I think that's really important because it does seem really difficult to have these large expansion or to move nationally, to continue growth when sometimes I saw in the chat, you're an office of 1, you know, and that's similar to how we are. Currently across the nation in the 7 states that we serve, we have under 30 full-time staff members. And then obviously we have volunteer mentors, we have student coaches, and we'll talk more about how we've been able to bring those people into the organization and kind of what positions that they hold. But in terms of full-time people, with 1,500 students, we do have around 25 to 30 full-time people, dependent on time of year. So it is doable, but it is difficult, just like I think a lot of you face in your communities as well. So we're going to talk about who we serve next. You heard Chris mention that we serve children of incarcerated parents, foster youth, as well as homeless youth. Those are our priority students. In California, we work primarily with those students 100%. In other states, we do work also with students who are fully Pell Grant eligible or who have faced adverse childhood experiences. And so we'll share a little bit of this video and then we will move on to chat about that more.
America Strong, our parent company Disney, is marking foster care awareness, and tonight the man on a mission to give foster children a chance at college after he was given a chance so many years ago. Here's Deborah Roberts.
We're excited. We're about to do a reveal. In foster homes across America tonight, hello, lives are changing.
You're going to college. You're going to college, young lady.
At schools, too.
You're all getting the scholarship.
Free college tuition, room and board from the nonprofit called Give Something Back.
Oh, God.
Founder Bob Carr came up with the idea years ago. He was awarded a small college scholarship, which changed his life. Carr vowed to do the same for others. A successful entrepreneur, he's done so in a big way, some $50 million.
It's kind of like that old Bible lesson about teaching a man to fish, isn't it?
It's absolutely, that's exactly what it is.
You give them something and they can pass it on.
We give them the route to education.
Less than 3% of foster kids go to college. Carr's determined to change that.
They're kind of invisible kids in a way.
I'm hearing that it's freezing, not on my side. Let me stop it and restart. Sorry, guys.
3% of foster kids go to college. Carr's determined to change that.
They're kind of invisible kids in a way.
They are invisible to most of society, but that needs to change, and it can change.
We're with Bob when he offers fresh hope to these New Jersey high schoolers.
You're going to actually say I'm going to college.
Okay, can we hear the audio? Okay, we will we'll play the audio and then we will leave a link to this video in the chat and you all can watch it at a later time perhaps. I'm not sure why it's doing that. I apologize.
How many of you will be starting a new tradition in your family, going to college?
Hands are raised.
Tyrone Harmon's the 1,000th recipient.
The idea that you don't have to worry about your tuition.
It's just a blessing. It really is.
And for Haley Revac.
I want to change. I don't want people to have to grow up the way I did, always being worried, like, where am I going to go next? And I just want to, have a happy life. So this is just the beginning.
Does this take a big load off?
Yes. I'm relieved.
Relieved because of that gift, that vow. Bob Carr, America Strong.
Our thanks to Deborah, Bob Carr, and his generosity, and to help get the word out, helping foster children, use the hashtag #DonateYourSmallTalk. They need us. Good night.
Hi, everyone. George Stephan.
Okay, so we will get back into the PowerPoint. I apologize for that video. But again, who do we serve? And we talked about that. I know a lot of you serve different populations of students. And so we started out serving one type of population, and then we've definitely dived into a more specific population due to statistics. So I'm going to get started and have Julie share a little bit more about who we serve, and then we'll go on from there. Jules, you're on mute, my friend.
Thank you. Obviously, we've been very lucky. Our students have been lucky to have such a generous person like Bob Carr. But the other thing that helps us to serve our students is by this kind of puzzle piece that we have, where we serve students that are within our own states that have experienced economic hardship. We need them to be fully Pell eligible, which is a federal grant. We absolutely give special outreach to our any students that may have been homeless at one point in time, may have experienced foster care, and or have incarcerated parent or parents. The majority of our students we've selected in 8th or 9th grade. And the reason that we've done that is so that we can start mentoring them as soon as possible. We also, again, look at students with special circumstances, but even if they missed the opportunity in 9th grade, we absolutely encourage them to apply anytime during high school. And then upon successfully completing either their high school diploma or their program, that's when the students actually receive their college scholarship. The reason that we give special consideration to those students that may have encountered some of these special circumstances is because statistically we know they're going to have a lower chance of graduating from high school or college, and we want to give them the support of our mentoring in order to help them through high school and graduate from college as well. And then I will let Chris explain California.
Thank you, Ms. Julie. So here in California, we have focused our recruitment efforts 100% on foster youth, children of incarcerated parents, and homeless youth. And the best way for me to describe why we focus solely on those populations is to tell a story about a young man that we met. We were told about a young man who was homeless, and so we were trying to figure out, okay, well, what does homeless mean? Is he couch surfing? Is he in a shelter? What does that look like? So he comes to see us to be interviewed for the potential to receive the scholarship. And he came in dressed in his best. He had gone to a thrift store and bought a blue blazer. And I'm not sure he had enough money to buy anything else, but he bought this blue blazer and he matched it up with a pair of sweatpants that had a blue line down the side so that he could look presentable. And he had a little handkerchief in his pocket. And he was just a wonderful young man. And as we were speaking with him, coming to find out he was living in his car. He was still in high school, living in his car, working 2 jobs. And he would go to school during the day, and then he would go to work and work 1 job, and then he'd get off that job and potentially go to another job until like 2 in the morning. He had a gym membership. So he kept the gym membership up so that he could shower, brush his teeth, and sort of get ready for the day. And then he would park his car in parking lots that would allow overnight parking, and park under a light so that he could get his homework done. So he didn't use the battery, car light or his phone light. And so the day he met us, not only did our lives change, but his did. We were able to work with partners in the community that we had been partnering with for a year at that point. And we were able to get him into a shelter, and he stayed there until he received our scholarship. He moved on to the campus at Cal State University, San Bernardino, and he's thriving. He's living in the dorms. He doesn't have to worry about not having a place to live. He doesn't have to worry about not having any food. And he is well respected on the campus already. He works for the San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools. And all of our youth in our program have really connected with him. He's a natural born leader. And so that's that's why we do this. And those are the kids, right, that we want to have relationships with, and we want to work side by side with, and we want to help reach their full potential. And so we have a lot more stories that are like that, but his stands out the most as far as changing the trajectory of his life. His life changed in an instant, and it was because of people like you guys that are all on here, right? That you know, you want to make a difference, and you want to be, you know, a caring person in a child's life. And so that's what we do. That's what all of Give Back does, is we change children's lives. And not just with not just us, but all of you on here, but and not just with the scholarship, right? But with love and care and supportive services. And so, yeah, we're very, very proud of him. In fact, this morning he was actually on another conference, and he was speaking. So all wonderful things for him.
That's what happens when you when you're live and virtual. My phone's ringing. I apologize. Thank you, Chris. And I think we all have a kid with the blue blazer. You know, I feel like that's just such a norm, as you have that student who just pulls at you and then makes you want to help a million more. And so that's what we keep thinking about, is how do we help more and more and more? And that's why we expanded. And that's why probably you're here as well, because you're looking for ways to expand. So we also need to ensure that you're recruiting, or we're recruiting, the right students to our program, the students that are going to be engaged and excited to be part of it. And where do we find these kids? Where do we find these students that need assistance, that need support, that are fully Pell Grant eligible? So they're typically low income, usually free and reduced lunch students, and that have faced adverse childhood experiences, such as the incarceration of a parent, homelessness, or foster care. So we're going to start with Katie in Kansas and talk a little bit about where we find the students for our program.
Yeah, here in the Midwest, Kansas and Illinois, we tend to do things pretty similarly. We really rely on creating strong relationships with high school counselors. In Kansas, at least, we are very blessed that most of our high schools do have one specific counselor that is kind of tasked as the college and career counselor. So we have built relationships with them so they can help us get our foot in the door in the school, invite us to do presentations, pre-COVID times, right? And help us identify the students that would be the best fit for our program. As an example, we have a great college and career counselor we work with, Miss Bell. She's at one of our Wichita schools here, and she has really just become a champion of our program. I think she's another great example of how just one person can really, that one caring adult can change a student's life, because we have picked a really high number of students from her school because she is so passionate about the program. So traditionally, pre-COVID, we go into different high schools in Kansas. We hit about 20 to 25 high schools, talk about the program. We explain that we do recruit students that are Pell Grant eligible. So we tell students what that means, explain that we will need them to sit down with their family to complete the Give Back eligibility calculator, which takes a look at their financial and family situation. We also talk a lot about mentoring during that recruiting session. It's very important to us that we get students in the program that not only want a college scholarship, but are looking to have a relationship with that caring and trusting adult. One of the pieces of our application process is actually a one-on-one interview. And in the last couple of years, we even added a question of what would you like to see in a mentor, or what characteristics do you want in your mentor? And that really helps us during the matching process. And we want students to feel like they have a piece in that matching process, that they have a little bit of power in that relationship. So it's kind of how we do things in the Midwest.
Great. Let's go to the Mid-Atlantic with our friend Lena.
Thanks, Lydia. So how do we recruit in the Mid-Atlantic? Well, because we are a small staff, and in fact, I was the only staff member in New York for almost 3 years, and now we have 2 full-time staff members, we really rely on our high school and CBO partnerships to help us find qualified students. We give information sessions at each of our partners each fall. So sometimes we give the information session to all of the 9th graders who are at the school. Sometimes we give the info session to all the 9th graders who qualify for free or reduced lunch, a sort of rough guesstimate of whether they will be Pell eligible. And sometimes we give the info session just to a special mentoring program at one of our CBOs or high schools. And I emphasize this because part of the strength of our program is that we work with our partners to figure out what the universe of students is that we're going to be recruiting from. So that's why it's really important that the first step is that we form a good partnership with a high school or CBO. And this is also part of what has made our program scalable. Because we want students to have peers, and that's part of our sort of reinforcing networks of support. When we commit to a high school or CBO, we want to make sure we're going to select a small cohort of students who can be each other's peers throughout high school and each other's supporters. Because we choose students in 9th grade, they will be part of a group mentoring program all the way through high school, and may even go to the same partner college and can be each other's supporters all the way. Our actual application process follows a very similar pattern to that Katie described. First, there's a financial eligibility calculator to see if they are going to be Pell eligible. Then an application with a short essay and 2 teacher recommendations. And finally, an in-person interview to get to know them and also so they can get to know us. For more detail about how to find scholars, I'm going to turn it over to Chris.
Thank you, Lena. So yeah, out here in California, we are everywhere. So we are part of a foster care advisory board. We are part of a homeless youth task force. We work with foster youth liaisons in school districts, school counselors, children and family services. We work with court-appointed special advocates, superintendent of schools, all school districts, teachers. Together We Rise is an organization that we started working with who's based in Orange County, and they work with foster youth, and they're actually a national team. We attend meetings that has anything to do with any organization working with our youth. So we try to insert ourselves all over so that we can get the word out about what we do. I'm not going to say that there haven't been challenges in trying to get these kids into our program just because of the different challenges that they face. But we keep at it, and we support them along the way and through the process. And so it's really, for us, it's just continuing to get the word out about who we are and what we do, and meeting with those intricate people that we need to make our programming work out here.
Great. I think what we've kind of heard over through the panel's discussion of this is it's all about partnerships. And that's really what's allowed us to be scalable and allowed us to go from that small program in Illinois to who we are today, and then to continue our growth pattern in the future, is making sure we have the right programs, the right students, and how we get both of those done is through the right partnerships. So we'll go into obviously what we're all here today for is mentoring. And so our mentoring program is very similar across the nation, but there are differences. And so we'll talk a little bit about why we have those differences, and also just kind of what that one-on-one relationship looks like for our students. So we'll start in the Midwest with Kelsey.
Thank you, Lydia. And as Katie has stated in a previous slide, here in Illinois and also in Kansas, we work, a lot of our work is similar. So I'll talk about the mentoring program from the Midwest. The focus of our program is to provide students with a mentor that has graduated or is in the process of completing college. Many of our students are going to be first-generation students, and while their parents want the best for them, they often don't know what steps to take in order to prepare them for college. So this is where we have our mentors step in. We provide them with the seasonal college preparatory topics for training by grade level to discuss with their mentees. In addition to the college prep topics, we also do quarterly trainings on either hot button topics or something that our mentors have asked us to present on. In addition to the training, we ask that our mentors communicate at least twice a month and commit to a relationship throughout high school with their students. Our communication can either be done by text message, email, phone call, and currently a lot of it's being done through video, Zoom, Google Hangouts. And pre-COVID times, we were also hosting a lot of in-person meetings. Give Back provides what's called a biweekly electronic feedback form. So what this feedback form does is it gives the mentor the opportunity to communicate directly with Give Back staff on where things are at with their mentee. It allows us as staff to get real-time updates on what's happening. If there are accomplishments that have been met, the student has achieved a high GPA, or they're on honor roll, or they've won an award, we get that information real time. If there's any issues that we may need to step in or address, again, we receive those in real time. So the feedback form has been a great tool to keep us in the loop about things that we need to be aware of. So while college readiness is the focus of our mentoring program, we also encourage our mentors to get to know their mentees and families in all aspects of their lives. Many of our mentors have attended extracurricular events as well as different college tours. We provide, in addition to the quarterly trainings, quarterly newsletters. So Lena is going to talk about the mentoring program in the Mid-Atlantic region.
Thanks, Kelsey. So as I said, in the Mid-Atlantic, we form partnerships with CBOs and high schools that already have strong mentoring programs. We recruit from those programs, and then we layer on top of that base. Because we have a small number of staff members spread across these states, we knew we wouldn't have the bandwidth to recruit individual mentors, vet, and train them for each of our students. So what we did require was that each of our high school and CBO partners establish a once a month group mentoring program for our Give Back scholars who were selected from those places. Some of these mentoring programs and partnerships already had one-to-one mentors for their students. But we still ask that they have a once a month group meeting for the Give Back scholars so they would get to know each other. We provide a monthly mentor curriculum for these meetings, and one staff member in New York comes to the group mentor meeting every couple times. We also have open hours twice a month to chat with our scholars and students, and of course, reach out to students individually all the time. Finally, we have program events in which all of our scholars from across the city and state and from all of our different partners come together. These are generally held on our partner college campuses so that students are both able to get to know each other and establish ties with the school. So they get to meet members of the university administration, other students, know what the dorms are like, where the cafeteria is, so that they feel comfortable when they arrive as freshmen on campus.
Awesome. So we will end with Chris on this question, who does things just a little bit different there in California.
Do things just a little different. I mean, we're still doing all of the same services academically that have already been described, but out here we have a student coach model. So we wrote for some grants and we were able to secure those grants. And so we have paid part-time employees that take a cohort of kids. They have a caseload, I guess you could call it. And they follow those kids and they check in with them weekly. And that might be a text or a phone call. We do want a face-to-face at least once a month. And so we've been doing a lot of that, right? Well, face-to-screen, face-to-face. And so that's sort of how we sort of do our mentoring here is this student coach model. There are other people in our organization. Amber Young, she is our Director of Workforce Development and Curriculum. She has a cohort of children. Jessica Fink-Biner, she's our Manager of Academic and Student Services. And I hope I got that right, Jessica. And she sees she oversees a caseload of kids as well, and as do I. So we check in on them. We get these relationships with them, and we just make sure that they're getting all their needs met, all their needs, biopsychosocial, all their needs met. And we also do a once a month programming. So we have the students come together one Saturday a month, and we, when it's not virtual, we are on campus at Cal State San Bernardino. The kids come at 9 o'clock. They are there until 2. In the mornings, we might do some educational. It could be remedial math, English, depending on sort of what we see the needs are at that time. And then we feed them lunch. And then in the afternoon, we do life skills. Amber is in charge of our curriculum for those Saturday sessions. And so she puts everything together, and she's the mastermind. She's the Wizard of Oz. And so we are assisting her in making sure that the kids get what they need during those sessions. And we also do a summer camp. Unfortunately, this year we had to do it virtually, but we bring all the kids together. They get to live on campus. They get to see what it's like to live in a dorm, sort of get that exposure to what is it like to be at a college campus. They get to eat the food that's there, go into the classrooms. And so that proved to not only strengthen our relationships with the kids, but theirs with one another. They really got to know each other and they really connected. And there's been a lot of peer mentoring that has happened. And when we noticed the peer mentoring, Jessica had started having the older students at Chapman sort of mentor the younger students coming in. And we sort of grew that, and we were able to, again, get a grant, and we were able to support paying for peer mentors on each of our college campuses. So now kids have a specific, I call them kids, I'm sorry, it's years of social work, but now our scholars have a point of contact on campus to be able to connect with, and then they also have their student coach. But the thing that we focus on here is like evidence-based practice, right? So objective, it's balanced, it uses current research that guides outcomes, it focuses on approaches that demonstrate outcomes that are effective. And so trauma-informed care comes from that. And trauma-informed care recognizes the impact of trauma, and it helps to promote resiliency and healing. Because, I mean, I know we all sort of deal with stress differently, but there are 3 different kind of responses to stress. And there's a positive stress response, which a lot of us have, right? There's this increase in heart rate, right? And this mild kind of elevation in stress hormone levels. And I think we've all had that, right? Like something happens and like your heart starts to beat, maybe your stomach might drop, right? But you're sort of able to kind of regulate yourself and kind of get yourself back to like a homeostasis state, I guess. And then there's tolerable stress, and it's serious and it's temporary, but what helps sort of buffer that is having supportive relationships. And so a supportive relationship can sort of help, bring that tolerable stress back down to a level that is tolerable. And then there's toxic stress, which I believe a lot of our kids experience. And that's a prolonged activation of a stress response. And it happens because there are no protective relationships. They don't know how to deal with it. They haven't been taught how to deal with it, and they're continually dealing with it over and over again and becoming re-traumatized. And when they're always at this level, it can disrupt brain development and other organs, and they're at risk for stress-related diseases and cognitive impairments. And those things are like heart disease and diabetes and substance abuse and depression that can last into their adult years. So we really formulate our curriculum around that, making sure that we understand when youth is in front of us, that we understand what's happening with that response, and that we really feel out here that will help. It's a key component of having a successful mentoring relationship with our youth. I think I covered everything. My colleagues might be yelling at me that I missed something, but we're kind of all in their stuff all the time, making sure that they're okay, giving them what they need, and always letting them know that we're here and that we're not going anywhere, no matter what they do, and that we'll always be here for them.
Thank you, Chris. I think, again, it is important, and we all know as mentors on this call and throughout this conference that it's hard to find the right people who have the same amount of caring and love for these students who, and a lot of times, have gone through some really kind of scary things in their background. And so in order to work with those students, it's important to recruit the right people. And so we're going to talk a little about where we find our mentors. Again, as you're looking to scale, it's important to be able to find the right people. Here in Kansas, Katie will talk about it. We started with just a couple of mentors. Now we're up to 89. That wasn't easy, but it was so important and so integral to the success of our students. So where do we find them? How do we train them? So I will start with Katie in Kansas.
Thanks, Lydia. I may also address a couple questions too that I've seen in the chat going on. So I'll try to address those as I talk about our recruitment. So like Lydia said, kind of when I started, it's just Lydia and I in the state of Kansas. So it's the two of us kind of running this program. We have 116 students in our program. And like she said, 89 mentors. When we started back really in 2017, actually 2018 is when I started, we had about 5 mentors. So we have scaled that pretty rapidly. The way that we did that, we first started with our professional and personal networks. So since we both came from the world of higher education, we had a lot of caring adults that we had access to that we knew would be encouraging and, serve as a great support system for our students. So we reached out to them and shared about the program. One of the things that I hear a lot, I'm seeing in the chat, and also I had a lot of questions about when we were building our program is, what type of support will Give Back give to the mentors? So we wanted to make sure, because it's easy to find somebody that's a caring adult, right? But they might not think that they can be a mentor. They might think that there's like some magic sauce that needs to happen. And really, it just needs to be a person who's consistent, who shows up, and who really wants to have a relationship with a high school student. So we, like Kelsey shared earlier, we're looking for somebody to have a 2 to 3 year relationship, but we provide initial training. We do quarterly training opportunities. We do a newsletter. We have an electronic feedback form, and then they have direct access to Lydia and I. So we field a lot of phone calls, texts, a lot of questions directly from our mentors. And as the mentors have been in the program, their confidence has really increased. But I think from a staff perspective, we have to remember that there needs to be a lot of encouragement from us in the beginning too. I think a lot of times we focus on the students in our program, but we really also are managing those mentors, those relationships, and their confidence levels as well. So kind of back to recruitment. Once we kind of got through that professional and personal network, we reached out to our high school and college partners. You may remember me talking about Miss Bell, who is our standout counselor. She actually shared about our program on her Facebook page. And we got a lot of current college students that way. So students of hers that were now in college and wanted to help us. A lot of those college students weren't in the state of Kansas. So we had some from Alabama, from Mississippi, and we thought, well, why not? We'll try virtual mentoring. We needed mentors. We needed like anybody that was really interested at that point. We also got staff and faculty from our college partners as well. But then we still needed more people. So one of the personal connections I had works at Garmin, and you guys may have heard of Garmin, but their world headquarters is in Olathe, Kansas, where I live. She shared with me that their company actually really promotes volunteering. They even get time off work during the year to volunteer. So I reached out to their human resources department. They put our information on their local intranet site, and they actually invited us to speak at a volunteer luncheon for their employees. We were able to go in, do a short recruitment program, and we got, I would say, 5 or 6 more really solid mentors from that. So then I started thinking, Peter and Veronica Maluk are awesome. They brought us this program here. And I thought, wow, their company, Creative Planning, also has their world headquarters in the area. So I asked if I could come in and do a similar type of recruitment effort for mentors to see if we can get some of their employees. So out of our 89 mentors, about 60 of them work for Creative Planning. So that has been a really positive partnership that we've had with them. Peter actually talks about it on his national sales calls. We go in person and do recruitment events. And because our mentors have been more localized, we've actually been able to do the first orientation or training in person as well. So I think that's really solidified our relationship with our mentors and allowed them to feel more comfortable reaching out to staff. So I will turn it over now.
Kelsey from Illinois.
All right, thank you both. So here in Illinois, we started out with reaching out to the local Chamber of Commerce's and just asked them for a list of businesses that were in the area. From there, we were able to make connections and different relationships with the businesses, and we actually were able to recruit some mentors. This really worked well when we were first starting off because it was only an office of 2 here. Currently, we still go back to that same list, updated list of businesses, and do continuous outreach just to see if anything has changed and anyone else is interested in joining us. We also have been able to recruit some mentors through the high schools, as Katie talked about, and Miss Bell. So we have recruited guidance counselors, staff, and some teachers. And these are great individuals to have as mentors in our network because they prefer to work with the students that are at their school. And in some instances where we have had a larger group of students at one particular high school, we're able to host some group mentoring. This happened actually quite often, quite frequently before COVID. We were able to go to the high school campuses and have mentors there. That's since halted, but the goal is to hopefully get back to that in the next couple months, but we will see. Here in Illinois, we're also able to recruit from within. So we have the largest group of alumni from Give Something Back. So we recruit from within for both our alumni and our current mentor list. We do have an alumni outreach coordinator on staff, and we partner up a few times a year to reach out to our Give Back College seniors about mentoring opportunities and to remind them that this is a way that they can give back.
Great.
Currently, to date, we have about 40% of our alumni who are current mentors. So they are, giving back early on. And number-wise, we have roughly 400 active scholars, which is between high school and college. About 230 are high school students, and we have 119 mentors here in Illinois.
Awesome. Thanks, Kelsey. So we're going to kind of swing back. I know we've talked a lot about partnerships, and then partnerships are really that guiding force in being able to grow, especially with small staffs, which I know a lot of us are up against. And so we're going to talk a little bit about how we determine a good fit for our partners. And we're going to start back with Katie in Kansas.
Thanks, Lydia. And we had some questions about this in the chat earlier, so I was really excited that we would be able to address this. So I'm going to talk about how we establish partnerships with colleges. We have an intern in the office, and she actually asked me that today too. So I thought, gosh, the universe is just coming together. So when we expand to a new state with our current model, we advertise that we're coming, and we allow the colleges to apply to be part of our program. So it's kind of a interview process that goes both ways. What we're looking for is colleges that have a strong desire to serve first generation students. For example, one of our partner schools in Kansas, Wichita State University, their student population is over 40% first gen. So they have great programming already built in that really welcomes our students on campus. We also look for colleges and universities that provide additional academic resources and support to our students. Another example is Kansas State University. They have a whole department dedicated to students receiving scholarships, like outside scholarships. They have a manager, her name is Kylie. We love Kylie at K-State. Kylie meets with our students. She takes them to brunch, they do study sessions. Our students are automatically enrolled in tutoring at K-State. So again, they're just receiving that extra level of support. Lydia and I, we want to be there for everybody, but we just don't have that ability. So we really rely on our college partners to step up once our students are in college to be there physically for our students. And then third, and kind of one of the most important pieces of our program is we're looking for universities and colleges that are able to provide financial support. So our student scholarship is made up from federal and state grant funding, our prepaid gift, and then if there's anything left over, we do ask that the college or university pick up the tab so that our students are able to have tuition, room and board, and academic fees covered. Our goal of our program, as you heard Bob talk about earlier, is really for students to graduate with little to no student loan debt. So having a partner that focuses on all three of these things is kind of the magic thing that we look for.
Thanks, Katie. And we'll go to Lena to talk about high school partners.
Sure. So Katie has talked about our college partners, and Chris is going to talk about CBOs, which are both also important partnership levels for Mid-Atlantic, but I'm going to focus on high schools. Our high school partners have come to us in a variety of ways, and I'm going to offer just a couple of examples. There's one high school in South Jersey in which a single guidance counselor learned about the program, I believe from our early days when we were actually advertising it on Jersey radio or seeing it advertised over social media. And he helped all of his advisees apply. And we selected 10 kids from that high school the first year we were in New Jersey. And because of this individual, a partnership was established with that high school. So we started selecting there our first year, and then we had a pathway to keep doing it the next year, establishing a working relationship with the guidance counselor and with the principal. And then pretty soon the teachers also knew that we were in that high school. This process of starting a program based on the passion of a single individual happens so often. We have a guidance counselor in Queens who was similarly active. She reached out to me after we had sort of publicly announced our partnership with Queens College. In other situations, though, our high school partners have come through us through connections with the colleges. So at Binghamton, we work with the social work graduate students and a community schools program to connect with the local high schools in the Binghamton area. And this has really helped us because through the social work school at Binghamton, they have the capacity to help us establish those strong ties, while Chabe and I are based in New York City. In general, when forming partnerships with high schools, it's important to have strong support from the principal as well as the guidance counselor, who are able to do everything from connect us to students, to let us know about tutoring opportunities, to also keep us in the loop if students are struggling in any particular subject. So now I'm going to turn it over to Chris.
Thank you, ma'am. So when you're looking to connect with a community-based organization, I think the main thing that you want to look for is that people that are in that organization or that organization is like-minded and passionate about working with these youth. I think that's the number one main important thing. And so, like spoke earlier about the Foster Care Advisory Board, we sit in that meeting and we're with other individuals that do different programs within the county or sometimes outside the county. And, they might offer something that we don't, like we don't have anything sport-like, right? So we might find a program that, we can connect a young person to that program and that coach sort of becomes a mentor. So we look for individuals that are in it for the youth. I think that's the main thing, is that they want to make a difference. They want to move that needle. They want to move that graduation rate needle. They want these kids to go to higher education. And so we've sort of surrounded ourselves with those people, and they are in every state and they are in every community. You just have to find them. And reach out to them. Don't be afraid to reach out and just say, this is what we're looking for and this is what we need. And, do you want to have some coffee virtually right now and talk about it? And, bring them on board and explain what you do and how can we fill the gaps and how can we partner? And when you do that, and I think it's specifically looking for organizations that are, have the same mindset. And I'll just throw a couple of things out, like Albertsons. So that's a grocery chain out here. We were able to write for a grant for Albertsons to help fill the food gap for our youth, because they believe that, it's very important to make sure that our children, especially these populations that we work with, that they're not thinking about, their food, they can study, and that doesn't have to be at the forefront. Also out here, In-N-Out, it's a hamburger joint, right? And they're very focused on working with foster youth and sort of trying to change the trajectory and the outcomes. Recently had a conversation with Starbucks. They want to start hiring foster youth. So these are the organizations that you want to connect with if you're just starting out, and because you don't have to jump into it alone. You can find similar partners out there that can help you to get your organization off the ground. So look for them. They're out there, I promise.
I think that's a good call on funding as well. There are times when obviously funding is an issue, small offices, funding, things like that. But to find partners like an In-N-Out or like a Starbucks or like a grocery store who may help you to do some of those wraparound services that you're interested in is always a good way for a small nonprofit mentoring organization to scale as well. So I think the question of this whole conference has been, what have we done during this pandemic? How have we continued to support our students? How have we been able to see them and know that they're okay when obviously this is such a terrible time and such a unique time for everyone. So we have one more short video about how California was able to transition their summer scholar event to a virtual environment. Let's hope it plays.
I don't know if you realize this, but it has now been about 6 months since we have all been in person.
Gosh, guys. Okay. I'm
As a
gonna
group
real
together.
quick try to not share my screen and share it one more time. And if not, then we will just post it and try again on your own time. Okay, 1 second, guys. So sorry.
We're in the midst of a global pandemic, but where I always get my hope is in all of you. This is our attempt to bring you together to remind you of how much we love you and care for you. Time and time again, we will show up for you. So each day, there's going to be a portion of this box that you open according to the speakers. This was put together by the medical students that have been working with us this summer, and we hope that it speaks to you and reminds you of how much we love and care about each of you.
If you could embrace something like, I'm great, and then have in the back of your mind, like what that one thing is, like maybe it's because you're in this program and you're so grateful. Know that you are a solution.
I can tell you that you're not alone when you feel like you're just flawed sometimes. We're all flawed. But like some of y'all shirts say, we're beautifully flawed.
There are two ways to maneuver the world. It's either fear or it's love. You can't hate the haters. They're gonna be there, and that's okay. You are in charge of you.
If you can hear me, if you can see me, that means that you're alive. And if you're alive, that means that your problems didn't defeat you. And if they didn't defeat you, that means that you're more resilient than what you think you are, that you're stronger than what you think you are, and that you're right here where you belong.
We do have our open mic tonight, an open forum for you to share your talent.
We see all the special things in each of you. There is nothing more important in life than to be loved. And that's what we will do, give you love over and over and over again until you realize your value and your worth to us. So one day we'll be gone, but you will remember this, and you will remember the expression of love, and you will give it back.
I'm glad that one played. That's a good one. So in the sake of time, we have a couple questions left. So we're gonna cut these a little bit short, but we're gonna go on and let Katie just kind of briefly outline how, as an organization, we've been able to adapt to this virtual world we're in.
Yeah, so you guys can see on the screen. Well, first of all, I just want to give props to California. They did awesome by bringing their Scholar Summit online this summer. I think the rest of us across the country, our biggest concern was that we didn't disrupt our programming just because we had to go virtual. So we were able to continue that by the use of Zoom. We also, seeing our students in person is probably our favorite activity. And we travel a lot in Kansas, so it was a big change for us. We were used to getting in the car, driving for hours, meeting with students face to face. So instead, we did a lot of one-on-one check-ins with students. I just posted in the chat, in the Midwest, we created resource pages for our mentors and students. So we took this extra time we had in our hands and really thought, what can we do to help support our students and mentors? And then recruitment wise, there was a question previous. Instead of going physically into high schools in Kansas, we created a video. We learned how to do that. So I picked up some new video editing skills and know how to use a ring light. But we just created a video about our program and then shared that link with the counselors and asked them to really be our ambassadors this year. So, and we still have very similar numbers of applications that we've had in years past.
Great, thank you. So we do have high levels of success here with Give Something Back across the nation. And something that is very continuous is that realistically, we have these similar rates of success in all of our sites, in all of our states. And so we're going to talk about kind of what contributes to that. But on average, about 100% of our students graduate from high school, and then around 89% graduate from college in 4 years. And we also have a 100% alumni employment rate. So we are super stoked about what we've been able to do with our kids. And I know we've talked a lot about what we do every day and how much we give to our kids and what we've done through COVID and our partners and our mentors. But I want to go to Julie real quick in Illinois to see if what else she thinks has contributed to our high rates of success.
So what I would like to say is I think what's really helped with our high rates of success is the college and life preparation through the events and programs. But over the past 17 years, that's almost 2 decades, life has really changed a lot. And so we've had to adapt what we share in those events and those what we train our mentors with, what we share with our students to help them grow significantly and be prepared to actually enter college and life.
Great, thanks. And we'll end with Chris on this question in California.
I think what makes us successful is, and I believe that it starts with our founder and CEO, is that he genuinely cares and he genuinely wants to make a difference, and that, you know, it's infectious. And so for us, it's connection, consistency, showing up. When you say you're going to do something, you do it, you follow through, and you know, you have strong partnerships with community-based organizations or your schools, and you'll develop those by showing up and doing what you say you're going to do with those kids. And it might take sitting down with them at a school counseling meeting, or just being an advocate for them when they feel like no one's on their side. I heard somebody say, I was watching a speaker once, and he said, every kid is one caring adult away from a success story. And so I think for our organization is we all are committed to being that one caring adult. We will show up time and time again, like our executive director said, until they know that they are worthy and they know that they can do it. I mean, it's one thing to hand a kid a scholarship and say, there you go, good job. But once they get on that campus, it's a whole new world, right? They just kind of figured out high school, and now this is this whole new experience that they're going through. And we stay with them and we help them maneuver and figure that path out. So I think that's what makes us successful, is that we say what we're going to do and we do what we say we're going to do, right? So we're in it.
Thanks, Chris. So what's next, right? I mean, I think we've talked a lot about obviously where we've been, but where do we want to go? And over the last 17 years, what we've learned is that we care about our kids. I mean, there's 1,500 of them, and I think any of us would do anything for any one of them. And so when we think about what's next, we know we want to do more. We want to help more students. We want to see where else we can scale, what other states that we may be able to go into. And so we're looking to expand. And maybe with that expansion, it may be modifying our program a little bit. We're looking for increasing our student populations, looking to those other states, finding like-minded partners, and we're looking to learn. So we're looking at community college options. We're looking at trade schools. In the past, we've really partnered with primarily 4-year degree programs, but we know, as Julie said, we need to be flexible. We need to know that things are ever changing and that our students are changing. So we want to change with them. So when we look at the future, all we can really tell you is that we're growing, and we're excited about that. And we're excited about what else we can learn in order to assist us in that growth. So here we are. We have about 15 minutes left for our presentation today. Thank you all so much for coming and listening and being so active in the chat. I am going to stop sharing my screen, and then we will be able to answer any questions that you have. Okay. So feel free to unmute and answer those, or Chabe, if you know of any questions that need more detailed response, let us know that as well.
We've had so many great questions in the chat. I know that Debbie, you were asking really great in-depth questions. I think this might be a really great chance for you to get a live response from one of our amazing panelists.
So my real question is, we mentor, like you, kind of high risk youth, refugee youth, and we're expanding in the way it was fine when it was 10, but now it's close to 40, and I might go to 50 or 60, and we're not getting any more staff members. I'm a brand new staff member. I'm very experienced, but I'm a brand new staff member. There's not going to be any more money. I do use volunteers. They come and they go, but I mean volunteers to help me on top of the volunteer mentors. But the real question is, how do you monitor the matches? And you know, do you do monthly check-ins? Do you try to schedule 70 calls with 1 or 2 ones? I've come up with this email form that they have an option of a phone call with me or a Zoom meeting, or these 4 questions about the progress of their mentoring. That's what I've come up with, but I don't know, you know, that's not an ideal practice, but you can't be on 100 calls a month or 50 calls a month.
Right. And I'll take it, and then I'll leave it to any of our panelists who may want to pipe in as well. But you're right. I mean, that is absolutely something that I think a lot of us struggle with, is just ensuring that those matches are done correctly. So I think all of that starts with the actual match, to ensure that you have the right mentors. Obviously, they're trained well. And then you also make that match. It's, you know, you hear sometimes in the old days, it was girl to girl, boy to boy. Okay, you're matched, let's go. And we really don't do that. I mean, we're very careful about how we match our students, and we're also very careful with our mentors in their communication with us. We keep in close contact, and you talk about—
But how do you do that? How do you keep in close contact?
Well, we make those calls. We do. So we call our mentors. Our mentors also reach out to us if there's any issues. We also have certain students that we know are higher risk that we reach out to more as individuals, as staff more. We also have one-on-one calls with our kids. So Katie and I talk to all 116 of our kids as often as we can. And a lot of times that's via Zoom, especially now. So we'll take a class. So we'll say, we're going to talk to all of our sophomores this, the next 2 weeks, and we'll make them schedule time with us on Microsoft Bookings. And then we'll have those 15-minute calls with all of them, and we'll ask about their mentor relationships. But you're right. A lot of times it really is just making all those calls and ensuring things work. As we continue to expand, we are looking at potentially utilizing new software that may enable that to be a little bit more smooth. But in the growth period and where we are now, that is what we're doing here, at least in Kansas.
Thank you. I hear what you're saying. A lot of the way I have to run the program is less than ideal, because, and I know if a volunteer is committed, and it's not just for college, I mean, it's wonderful what you're doing. It's not just a younger volunteer. You can screen them. We barely have enough volunteers, and they seem enthused. So it's a real issue, because we don't have a choice among matching typically, although we do try to do good matches. We don't get a choice. Usually there's 1 for 1. And I only get a sense of the mentor later, once they're in the session. I mean, once they're going. So I just don't know how I'll do it with 50 or 70 or whatever, but I guess there aren't any easy answers. So thank you.
It is really hard. I mean, I'm not gonna tell you it's easy. I think we all on this call can tell you that that's so hard. And I think hopefully, as you continue to grow, maybe you do find a community partner or a CBO or a high school or a corporate partner that really can allow that. Or you could look into grant writing, as they do in California, to try to bring on some more part-time staff that are more paid positions with higher ability and higher caseload. So maybe take on more than one student. So, but thank you for sharing with us. Oh, I just saw in the chat you want the email addresses. I will share my screen one more time and share all of our email addresses with you. Hold on just a minute. And anyone else who feel free to go ahead and ask a question.
I had a question about kind of the role, because from what I understood when you were explaining it earlier, that you guys aren't actually responsible for recruiting and training your mentors. You leave that to your, like, forgive me if I'm wrong, your like community partner organization, right? So how do you, like, I guess what I'm saying is, how do you form that type of relationship where you know you can trust the types of mentors that are coming in? Because we do a lot of effort. Like, we have our interviews with each potential mentor. We have like 3-hour long like orientation and training. You just kind of outsource that, like train the trainer, or like what does that kind of look like for you guys?
Good question. Just in the Midwest, just so you know that we do recruit and train our own mentors here. So like in Kansas, and we have 89 mentors that we've recruited and trained. In Illinois, they have 116 mentors that they recruited and trained. But you are correct, in the Mid-Atlantic region on the East Coast, they do have CBO partners. So I'll let Lena field that question for you.
Sure. Yeah. When we moved into New York and New Jersey, it was a little bit of a different area, I guess, than where Bob had started in somewhat rural Illinois, where there weren't a lot of mentoring programs. So when we started in New York City, we knew that there are a lot of mentoring programs and that we couldn't really compete with developing and recruiting our own mentors, or that there would be a kind of zero sum, like we'd be stealing mentors from somebody else. So it was all about vetting the partnerships. And with public charities, you know, that's like pretty easy to do, especially in very dense urban areas like New York City, where mentoring organizations have long track records. So one of our partners is the Osborne Association. They've been around, I think, for about 7 decades. They have a lot of public city contracts, so their numbers, they are held to a high bar of transparency. So partnering with them and with their different mentoring programs. So they have like a youth action council where they work directly with teenagers. They have a mentoring program where they work with slightly younger kids, preteens, adolescents. We just felt very comfortable with their outcomes and with the public reporting structures that they had been held to. And so that's why we started working with them. Now, how do we get them to work with us? Well, partly that is allowing them to have a little bit of ownership over the Give Back program. So when we say, Osborne Association, we know you've got a lot on your plate. You're also held to incredible funding constraints, but we'd like you to add a group mentoring meeting for the Give Back scholars. You know, most organizations will be like, no, we don't have the bandwidth for that. But some organizations will say, okay, well, if we can work with you to select at least 4 scholars, then we're willing to take on that bandwidth. And so part of it is committing to a small cohort. So not just cherry picking one scholar from one organization, one from another, but committing to a certain number and then allowing that partner to have a little bit of ownership and control over what the shape of the program looks like, that makes them be invested in partnering with us. So I think Katie talked about having a two-way partnering street with the colleges. I think that works with the CBOs too. And because Chave and I are just two staff members, we're willing to be flexible and work with our partners. So that's a meandering answer to your question.
I just wanted to add out here in California, we do trauma-informed care training, mandated reporter training. We do extensive background checks here. The Department of Justice, Child Abuse Central Index checks. I mean, we check everything before we make a commitment to the student coach. And then once they're here, it's ongoing training. We either might find the training that someone else might be doing, or, you know, we could do them ourselves here. So yeah, we make sure that they're trained and that they're ready to go, and that they're not just really for the adult, right? They're being put in this position where they're like, what did I get myself into? What's going on here? Like, we really try to equip them. And we also here, we do supervision, and we also do a staffing where we all come together and we talk about the students and their struggles and services and how we support the student coach in getting what they need. And if that means, is it a higher level? Does our executive director need to be involved in this conversation with the youth and the student coach? So we take that very serious, and we make sure that all of our student coaches are trained and fully vetted.
Thank you. Great question. Great answers. Anything else, y'all? Okay. It's the final one today. So happy Friday. Thank you again so much for everyone being here, being so engaged. I know it's hard on Friday afternoon in a virtual environment, but we were so pleased with all of your questions and your responses. So again, our email addresses were posted. This will also be posted for, I think, 30 days on the website. Please fill out the survey. It's over to the side in the chat box, and we look forward to hearing from you with any questions. Feel free to reach out to us directly. So thank you again, and everyone have a great day.